Hello there everyone. Most of you probably know me by my call sign, friend Kapustych. I am currently serving as a dedicated machine gunner right here on the active front line. Today I have the opportunity to take some time to give you a very thorough and detailed review of my primary weapon, the M249 SAW. This is a piece of equipment that I rely on every single day in the field, and I want to share my personal experiences and technical insights regarding its performance and reliability under these intense combat conditions. I am a dedicated fighter serving within the combat group known as Pirate, which is a specialized part of the Special Reconnaissance Unit of the 12th Azov Brigade. Currently, I serve in the role of a machine gunner, and I am the primary operator of this specific heavy machine gun. To begin our conversation, I would like to share with you the detailed story of exactly how this machine gun was first created. My goal is to completely dispel all of the myths and doubts you might have. I truly believe that this machine gun is not about some ingenious solution, but simply about the needs of the infantry. Back in the early 1970s, all the Americans already understood that they had enough assault rifles, but at the squad level, they lacked a sufficient rate of fire. The 5.56 caliber is good for rifles, but for machine guns, it is not enough. Even then, they began to seriously consider creating a new caliber, something like 6mm. It shoots more accurately and flies farther, but everything came down to logistics, supply, and NATO standards. So they quickly abandoned this idea. But here, the Belgians acted quite wisely. They also realized that developing a machine gun for a new cartridge was not relevant. So the Belgians introduced a new classification and the SS-109 cartridge type. This was a round with a more powerful bullet, and that's how the Minimi was created, which later won the auction in the US and became the M249 SAW. Why SAW? Because it stands for Squad Automatic Weapon, meaning a squad machine gun. The weight of this machine gun in its stock form is 8.5 kilograms, which is quite decent. The advantage of this machine gun is its ammunition. You can carry twice as many rounds as with the 7.62, but whether that's really an advantage is up to you to decide. The main feature of this machine gun, yes, it can certainly be configured to operate both with a belt and with detachable box magazines, like the common Stanag type, just like this. And for this, for which probably everyone knows it well, it's the dual feed system. Yes, it can operate both with a belt and with magazines like the Stanag type, just like this. For this, we detach the box and remove the magazine itself. This mechanism is patented, but you have to understand, this machine gun was created solely to work. This specific magazine is really only intended to be a backup option for the user. Why is that? Well, because when you are actually using it, there are a lot of persistent issues with gas leakage, and quite often the bolt itself strips the follower right off the magazine. That is exactly why we only ever use it as a final last resort. Next, let's move on to take a much closer look at the complex inner workings of this classic American hardware. Any manipulations that appear during this process are quite interesting to observe.
Надалі перейдемо до внутрішнього світу американського заліза.
With the weapon, we check to make sure it is unloaded. To do this, we open the receiver cover, pull the bolt group back, inspect the chamber, and always check the magazine well by hand. This is because there are many cases where a round remains there, and when you pull the trigger, a shot is fired. Once you've checked and everything is fine, close the cover. At this point, you can detach the barrel. As I mentioned, this version with the longer barrel is a version detach the barrel. As I said, this is the version with the longer barrel. There are also versions with a shortened barrel. My kit came with 2 such barrels. The gas blocks are not adjustable, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. There is also the option to install a suppressor. The advantage of this barrel is its quick detach feature. So if the barrel overheats, you can replace it quite quickly. Moving forward to the next step, let's focus our attention on the specific pin that secures the stock in place. For a standard field strip, you do not actually need to remove this pin completely from the assembly. Leaving it in this halfway position will be more than sufficient for our current needs. First, we must carefully pull the trigger and firmly hold the bolt group itself to maintain control. Then, I will proceed to remove the internal return spring mechanism, followed by the entire bolt group itself. The bolt group is separated into the bolt carrier itself. Next, the mechanism for the bolt is also easily removed. And what's great is that these pins are secured. So during combat you won't lose them. That's very convenient. After that, I can also proceed to completely remove the stock itself. Remove the bolt carrier and mechanism. The pins are secured, so they won't get lost in combat. Next, use a multi-tool to detach the stock. The instructions advise against disassembling it, but my curiosity got the better of me, so I took it apart, and then, when I was putting it back together, I had to Google the construction of this machine gun. So I wouldn't recommend disassembling it, even for those who are curious, or even if you're not. Next, you remove the gas tube. Just turn it and pull it out. Then remove the handle containing the trigger mechanism. The manual advises against disassembling it, but curiosity won. So I took it apart and had to Google the assembly later. I don't recommend it, but for the curious, why not? Next, turn and pull out the gas tube. That's the partial disassembly. Reassembly follows the same sequence. For the gas tube, find the securing pin. First timers might find it tricky. Also, if you've fired many rounds, carbon buildup will make it harder. Insert it. I've seen that there are a lot of problems specifically with attaching this assembly. What kind? I'll give you some life hacks. First, you should attach the upper part, not the lower one. That is, once you've attached it, the lower part will go in more easily afterwards. And here you insert its mechanisms themselves. We assemble it in the usual position. Top first, then bottom, reverse fit mechanisms. First, we take the bolt and slide it in. That looks excellent. Now, carefully press down on the trigger lever. Gently guide the entire assembly forward into position. Next, we need to install the return mechanism properly. After that, we can proceed to close the stock itself. A bit. Make sure the fixing pin is securely in its place. To attach the barrel, as I mentioned earlier, you must ensure your return group is fully ready and in the correct position. Do that, and only then do you attach the barrel. Attached it. Release the trigger. Always guide the trigger release on these wave meters. Do not make a jerky trigger release when handling it like this. If you release the trigger abruptly, the part may pop out. Guide the trigger release. Guide it, check it, and it works perfectly. Overall, based on its design, slide back, attach barrel, pull, and guide the release safely. Great design and ergonomics. Quite compact. The downside is its weight. That is precisely why, in the current military landscape, the Americans have already started actively researching and developing a completely new ammunition caliber for the machine gun, and have successfully created a brand new model that weighs approximately 6 kilograms. Next, we shall move on to the absolute basics of the operation, the intensive training process. Next, we move on to the core fundamentals. This is the essential training required for this specific machine gun. Close the cover now. Close it up tightly.
Новий калібр під кулемет і розробили нову модель кулемета, яка там важить в районі 6 кг. Далі переходимо до основи основ. Це тренування із цим кулеметом.
Here are the exercises. The Zielklein target number 4 is placed at a distance of 15 meters. Here, you lie down comfortably in this position. Calmly, without rushing, you find your shooting stance. The main thing here is dry fire practice. That is, you found your shooting stance and it's comfortable for you. The main point is that this shooting stance must remain consistent. You don't change it. So once you found your stance, the next step, the first thing, is to prepare 3 rounds. Check them. So you found your shooting stance and it's comfortable for you. The main point is that this stance must remain consistent. You don't change it. So once you found your stance, the next step. The first thing is to prepare 3 rounds. Check them, great. Fire a burst. Repeat this 2 or 3 times. Then go to the target and look at your hits. From this point on, then you understand how you're hitting. If your grouping is close to the center and within a 20 centimeter radius, repeat this 2 to 3 times and move on to the next distance. So the first distance is 15 meters, then 25, 50 and 100 meters. When you're able to shoot bursts of 3, 6, 9 and 15 rounds at these distances, only then can you move on to dynamic shooting. The next exercise is a bit more static, but most of it is dynamic. So you take your machine gun, place it in the feed tray, but do not load it because safety rules come first. And the essence of the exercise, it's the same static drill, more or less. But how does it work? Right before shooting, you practice the movement. It's the same in this drill as in the previous one. So you're standing, you shoulder the weapon, load your weapon, but keep it safe. Practice the dry movement, shoulder the gun, simulate a burst standing, then kneeling, and finally prone. Once again, from that exact starting position, and without ever letting go of your weapon, you will slowly drop down to one knee. Fire off a controlled burst. Then stand back up quickly to fire another burst. The point of this exercise is the same. Move fast. Fire a burst. Kneel and fire, then stand and fire. The goal remains. Keep shots tight and hold the weapon throughout. You can add an extra shot, like this. So, the shooter, love engineer, makes one controlled, deliberate burst. Then, while moving here towards the target area, you keep your weapon ready and fire a burst on the move. Here again, a controlled shot. In summary, you move towards the target area, go prone, then switch to one knee again. Take a shot at the target area and do it from the knee in a controlled manner, using cover. A controlled shot, then while moving again towards the target area, another controlled shot. The point is that during each change of position, you fire an additional burst towards the target. What is the purpose of this exercise? The first exercise I mentioned, and this one as well. The first exercise is that if you are a beginner, just starting out on this path, you need to focus your attention on your shot grouping, your weapon handling, and your ergonomics. You need to get used to this machine gun. So first, you practice your weapon handling with dry fire to make sure your grip is consistent and does not change. If everything is working, move on to static shooting, focusing on your shot grouping. If you can handle 15 meters, 25, 50, 100, then move on to this exercise where you maintain your level and work through it. In this position, and until you can consistently, I emphasize, consistently group your shots with these exercises, you don't move on to the next ones. You're moving somewhere across rough terrain, like here. So you're moving, let's say you're either the third or the second in line in these three positions. Until you consistently group your shots with these exercises, don't advance. Moving through rough terrain, like here, as the second or third in a group of 4, you make contact. Your goal is to immediately suppress with fire. From here, open fire toward the target. Search for it, and as you fire, lower your barrel and drop onto the target. From this position, you start firing from the shoulder, roughly in the direction of the target. You look for this target, and as you begin to fire, you lower your barrel and drop down into a prone position. After that, since the enemy now knows where you are, you roll over and change your position. Roll as quickly as possible. Then engage the target again. I talked with my comrades about what happens if you keep firing and providing cover. Either they advance or they retreat. This is very important. What mistakes have I often observed? For example, if you are moving during a combat operation, your machine gun is either in this position or like this, because it's very heavy. But if you're in a situation where the enemy could be present, your machine gun should only be in this position. The barrel is almost always pointed at the enemy. Yes, it's hard, which is why physical training is essential. If your sector is on this side, your grip changes like this. It's important so you can immediately start firing. If your sector is on the other side, it's the same. The way you hold the weapon changes. I'm lying at the 12 o'clock position. I fire 2 bursts. Next, we turn our head, clearly identify the target, this chest target. We fire with the machine gun ourselves on our elbows and lift our pelvis. We immediately roll over and rapidly discharge 2 bursts of fire. Target hit, then we get up on one knee. The target is constantly monitored. Make sure you don't get into a situation where you stand up and lose control of the target. Contact right, engage and track while rising. First, I got down on one knee. I fired off 2 bursts And then I rotated quickly to the 6 o'clock position. I turned my head, carefully identified the target, turned my body, and fired 2 more bursts. This is exactly how it looks if I run through the entire sequence quickly right now. For example, I see the first target. Engaged. Now I see the second target. Engaged. Dropping down on one knee. Engaged. Finally looking at 6 o'clock. Engaged. Target engaged. You can also choose to start this exact same training drill from a standard standing position. For example, you can work through the 12, 9 and 6 o'clock positions. While you are standing, make initial contact. Fire 2 controlled bursts. Maintain your control and fire another 2 bursts. Now, carefully drop down into the prone position on the ground. Once you have dropped into prone and reached the 6 o'clock mark, switch your orientation and stay fully engaged with the target until the drill is complete. In short about these drills, this drill is very much like the one we just practiced in terms of developing a rapid response to contact. So the most important thing to remember in this drill is to focus on performing it slowly and deliberately. I made this sling single point. Why is this effective for me? This kind of fixation allows me, first of all, to manipulate it from any position. Perform this reaction drill slowly. My single point sling allows easy, unobstructed manipulation from any position.
Відпрацював на 6. Відпрацював. Також можна починати цю ж саму вправу із стійки. Умовно. 12-та, 9-та.
That if there's a bad situation, I can detach it and, so to speak, take it into a ready position, which is quite convenient. This is my personal experience. Secondly, about something that was considered a dogma among machine gunners during their training. That's the transition to the prone position. We were constantly taught that it should be a quick transition. So you're standing, you spot contact, and that's it. You drop down instantly. You drop down and you fall together with it. What's my opinion on this statement? This position is relevant, this drop to prone, when you're under direct contact and you need to get down as quickly as possible. If we're talking about target control and maintaining constant fire, you drop down and you fall together with it. What's my opinion on this statement? This position is relevant, this quick drop, when you're under direct contact and you need to get down as fast as possible. If we're talking about target control and maintaining constant fire on the target area, as the contact continues, you gradually move into a kneeling position. You drop down quickly, throw your legs out wide, and maintain complete control of the target at all times. You get up the same way. Maintain target control, throw your leg over and stand up. You keep control the whole time. Doing it this way, you lower your silhouette, drop down, throw your legs out and stay in control. Get up the same way. Under old instructions or contact training, when you fall and drop down, in those few seconds, in other words, you're not in control of the target and it can easily slip away, and you won't know exactly where it is. That's why I believe that both of these positions are relevant, but this is with a quick withdrawal. Because you're not controlling the target and it can escape and you won't know where it is. That's why I believe that both of these positions are relevant, but this is with a quick withdrawal. This applies if you're under fire and need to quickly lower yourself to get down. The second thing I showed from my own experience is necessary for maximum control of the target and effective fire.
Закидаєш ноги і контролюєш ціль. Вставати так само. Контролюєш ціль, закидаєш ногу і підіймаєшся. І можеш постійно контролювати ціль.
And here is a reaction training drill. And now, let's move on to the shooting exercises and drills themselves. Edivi, here is a specific drill for effectively reacting to unexpected physical contact. I'll show you exactly how this works right now.
І ти не будеш знати, де вона перебуває. Тому я вважаю, що
I'm going to show you in great detail exactly how I perform this specific maneuver. Once you have completely finished your shooting practice, we can move on. The primary point of this tactical drill is to ensure that you spot the enemy as much as humanly possible, while constantly repositioning yourself to maintain a strategic advantage over your opponents at all times. The next phase of our training involves clear communication with the entire group, followed by a critical decision to either initiate a full assault or perform a tactical withdrawal. Moving forward, the next specific drill we will focus on is the reaction to contact. We will practice responding to threats coming from the 12, 3 and 6 o'clock positions. To begin, I will start from the standard ready position. Contact. You must control the target immediately and maintain control over all sectors. Once that is done, the drill is complete. Keep in mind that you can also choose to start this entire drill from the ready position to ensure consistency in your training routine.
Я вам зараз покажу детально, як я й
You can also choose to start from Olehich's opposition position. Everything remains exactly the same as before. Position yourself on the right side at the 12 o'clock mark. As I have mentioned to you previously, you must cycle through the positions. Standing, kneeling and prone, then transition back to kneeling and finally back to standing. I am working here. You must maintain control of the target and carefully control all the sectors. The fundamental point of this specific drill is to ensure that your weapon is always pointed directly at the threat.
і або накат, або
Moving forward to the next part of our training session. The very first drill we are going to perform today is a static exercise. To begin, you need to carefully lie down on the ground at the 15-meter mark. Once you are in the correct position, you will start the sequence with 3 full rounds of fire. Specifically, you should execute these as 2 controlled bursts for each round to ensure maximum precision and stability throughout the entire drill.
починати з
Next, standing position.
лежачи. Все аналогічно. Вправа на 12 годину. Те, що я говорив.
Absolutely everything is now fully and completely finished.
Ложка, знов коліно, знов стійка. Працюю.
And we go to the target to check the hits. As we can see, the target has fallen. Next, another set of 3. Finished, and we go to the target to check the hits. As we can see, the target has fallen, which means the target has been hit. So, my first set of 3 went,
Справи, вас ствол постійно.
one shot went low, while the second one went high because it fell, and so to speak, I finished it off. You need to make sure that all of your rounds land within this specific radius. Once you can do that, move on to 25 meters, then 50 meters, and then 100 meters.
Починаєте з
This exercise is very simple, but it takes a lot of time to master. And it requires a lot of ammo if you and your squad leader have that opportunity. There was a combat mission, and this magazine didn't let me down. There was a clearing operation in a populated area, and I had a hot landing. There was a combat mission, and this magazine didn't let me down. There was a clearing operation in a populated area. We gathered in one basement, while the enemy forces were about 40 meters away from us in another basement. We approached stealthily, unnoticed. We threw 2 grenades in there, waited, and started to go in. But the enemy came to life. He threw back his own grenade. My comrade fell, and I started firing.
умовно. Перша моя
It was precisely because this high-capacity magazine holds such a significant amount of ammunition that I was truly able to maintain that intense, sustained rate of fire. This constant pressure allowed my comrades the necessary time to throw in a 400 and successfully take out that entire basement position. That is exactly why, as I mentioned before, this specific magazine is engineered for these exact kinds of demanding tactical tasks. It is the perfect synergy between the dedicated gunner and his reliable weapon. He plays an essential and highly critical role in modern warfare. So, if you are interested, come and join us today.
Була бойова робота, і цей кулемет мене не підвів. Була зачистка населеного пункту, ми накопичилися в одному підвалі, а сили противника були від нас по 40 метрів в іншому підвалі. Підійшли скритно, непомітно, туди закинули 2 гранати, почекали, почали заходити, але ворог ожив. Він відкинув свою гранату, мій побратим впав, і я почав насипати. Саме завдяки тому, що кулемет має багато БК, я забезпечив цей темп вогню, щоб дало змогу моїм побратимам туди закинути 400-ку і скласти цей підвал. Тому, як я й говорив, цей кулемет саме для таких задач. Кулеметник і його зброя відіграє важливу роль у сучасній війні. Тому, якщо тобі цікаво, долучайся.